Well, this week, a poll from YouGov and The Economist showed Americans were more likely to say Trump should be convicted than to say he shouldn't. 46% said he should be convicted to 38% who said he should not. But the Real Clear Politics average of all the latest head-to-head polls have former President Trump ahead by 1% nationwide and by less than 1% in the key swing states of Wisconsin and Michigan, with a 2-point lead in Pennsylvania and larger leads in other key swing states. So let's bring in our panel right now to talk about all of it. Here with us in studio this week, we have former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats, Robin Winston, 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign, Tony Samuel, former member of the House Democratic Caucus, Terry Austin, and former Indiana GOP communications director, Pete Seat, who also worked for the Bush administration. So Pete, we saw some of those polling numbers there. Most Americans thought the former president should be convicted, and yet he is still ahead nationally against President Biden. What impact will this historic guilty verdict have in the race for president this year, do you think?
Not to be so glib about it, but I think it will have zero impact.
None.
There might be some on the margins. I think you'll see that in polls in the coming days and weeks. But if you look deeper at the numbers from even before this trial began, if you found Donald Trump favorable, you thought he was innocent. If you found him unfavorable, you thought he was guilty. And I don't think anything changed about that with this verdict.
That tends to be the way a lot of people look at this stuff. Terry, do you agree here? Certainly a lot of headlines this week about the trial, but also some headlines in Politico about Democrats being in, quote, freak-out mode about President Biden's polling numbers. Should they be? And what happens now after this week's historic guilty verdict?
Well, let me say this. I partially agree with Pete. I think it will have some impact, not a lot maybe, but I think there's still, several months leading up to November. People are going to focus on what matters to me and how is my life going to be different. Economic issues, job growth issues, safety and security issues. And that's where I think the president has a great story to tell. So as far as people being in freak-out mode, there's still several months. People just need to get on message and tell the story that needs to be told.
Tony, you're among those in your party who've been supporting the former president's run for re-election. What do you think? Will this verdict have an impact with some voters?
Well, first of all, I agree with the folks that you showed earlier on the show and countless others that say this was a scam, a rigged election done politically motivated. The judge had a bias against Trump. That was clear in his rulings, and that's what swayed the jury. So it wasn't a fair trial by any means. But to your question, the impact will be a slight, like Pete said, I think, because what they wanted with this and all of the indictments and the impeachments when he was president and everything else they've thrown at him is to be able to now say he's a convicted felon. So that's going to sway a few people, maybe on the that are independents that now won't be able to vote for him. But it also ticks off so many Americans because they know this is a rigged election. And I would, want to make this broader picture. There's a reason why they go after Donald Trump so much for, since 2015. And you see it in what Biden and this administration has done in the last 3 years to destroy this country. They've got to get him out of the way. So you've got to realize that that's why they're doing this, all these things against him, so that they can change the country. And we've got evidence of that.
Robin, what's your response to that? And what does the message need to be now from the Biden campaign?
Do we have a half an hour? I think the big message here is that Donald Trump was convicted. He's a convicted felon. I agree with Pete. There are people that are baked in, locked in, that are never going to change no matter what, on both our side and their side. These campaigns are all about the sensible middle and who's going to move and shake that way. In Pennsylvania, 165,000 people voted for Nikki Haley. Here, 126,000 voted for Nikki Haley, 22% of the vote. So they are showing that they're not for Donald Trump, and those were Republican voters. So I think you're going to come back and revisit this, Dan, and see where they are. But throughout the election, when we talk about polls, there was a large cadre of Republican voters that said if he were to be convicted, that would give them pause about voting for him. And I think we're going to see that be the case.
Now he has been. We'll see what happens. Let's talk about the upcoming Republican convention here in Indiana later this month. It's 2 weeks away. The fight is on to see who Mike Braun's running mate will be, Julie McGuire or Micah Beckwith, who's taken the unusual step of running for LG. Pete, how do you see this race playing out?
Well, I think the reception for Julie McGuire has been increasingly positive. She has a short runway here from when she was picked by Mike Braun to convention day. She's kind of in that introduction phase. It looks looks like Micah Beckwith is in the, hey, I have some ideas phase.
Put out some proposals
Yeah,
this
some
week.
proposals,
Yeah.
which is fascinating to watch because his entire campaign has been about, how he's a vocal opponent of wokeism and all this other stuff. I think he's getting some pushback from delegates saying, hey, okay, well, what's your experience? How can you fit into this administration? And he's now putting those ideas out to make his case.
Because of that perception, Terry, if Micah Beckwith is successful, how much do Democrats lean into that to try and paint the Republican ticket as out of touch or extremist?
As much as they need to. I would say that if Micah Beckwith comes out of this convention, it's one more split within the Republican Party. We saw what the primary campaign was like. It takes a long time to heal some of those divisions. Some people will jump on board and be fine with it, but the question is going to be, what's Mike Braun going to do? What leadership is he going to show? Let's hope he doesn't leave Julie McGuire at the gate.
Tony, how do you see this playing out, and what do you make of Beckwith putting out tax proposals? Lieutenant governors don't necessarily always put out their own policy ideas.
Sure, and what he told me is that he wants to make sure that conversation stays in the forefront. It was out there a little bit in the governor's primary race, but not as much as what even those candidates and what he's hearing out on the stump as far as concerns from people with their property tax bills coming in now. And so he wants to keep that conversation out there. He realizes as lieutenant governor, that's not what he's got to be in control of himself. He's got to work with the General Assembly, work with the governor, but he wants it to be a conversation, and he's looking at, I think what something about his proposal is local governments are going to have to tighten their belts as well.
Well, and some questions about what that will mean for local governments and how they'll make up that money. Robin, what's your response to all that, and what about the news this week that Joe Donnelly is coming back to Indiana? Do you see him playing a role of any kind on any campaign this year in any
Well,
capacity?
it's not unusual for their party to have a fracas at their convention. I mean, it seems to be that the mark of death is to be endorsed by the governor. That's happened last time whenever they had candidates in 22. As it relates to Joe Donnelly, it's great to have him back home again. This is a senior statesman, U.S. senator, an ambassador picked by the president to the Vatican. I think it'd be great for his wise leadership to give advice as we move forward.
That's the only role you see him playing this election year.
That's all I see him playing this election year.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to hear from the governor about the impact of last weekend's Indy 500 and how one Indiana industry used the race to draw attention to an issue they're hoping to advance at the State House. That's next.